のシザーアームとナイトメア2体分をオーバーレイ。エクシーズ召喚。
また新たなナンバーズ。
これが俺の本当の切り札。いでよナンバーズ88人。ギミックパペットエステインレオ。
Hey everyone, Sev here. Today I'm here to talk about my Gimmick Puppet Deck Profile. I've had this deck for a while now, but to be frank, I didn't have really the motivation to make YouTube videos until recently when I started to make them about Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's another thing. This deck is from the Yu-Gi-Oh anime series Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Its main focus is just Exceed summoning rank 8 monsters, and it takes advantage of the rank up magic mechanic to rank your rank 8s into rank 9s and then make them more powerful and give them better effects. However, this is again from like 2012 to I think 2015, so the effects are not very good and their support really doesn't help them out as much as it probably should. I do think, however, if they get some more archetype spells that could, I don't know, like give them painful choice for like 8 and then allow them to XE summon with all the monsters in the graveyard, then I think they'd win. They'd be a pretty good deck, but even then, like it's I don't know. This is definitely a more casual deck, but let's get into the monster count. We're running 3 Gimmick Puppet Jury Doll. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one other Gimmick Puppet monster in your graveyard and special summon it, and then that's a hard once per turn effect, and then you cannot summon, or it cannot be used as Exceed material for an XE summon other than a Gimmick Puppet monster, which sucks because there's many times in this deck that you're playing that you're like, oh, I can make Dingirsu and send my opponent's monster, but then you realize that one of their materials would be Jury Doll, and then you can't, and then you're just like, well, what's the point of running you at 3? But it's also a machine duplication target, which is pretty funny in my opinion. And then 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Magnet Doll. Basically just a Pankratops, except you can control. If your opponent controls a monster and all the monsters you control are Gimmick Puppets with a minimum of 1, you just special summon the card. Again, like I said, it's pretty neat. Also pretty old because your opponent has to control a monster, as in i.e. this is a go second card, and the current build I have is mainly for casual play and really not meant to like take on the regional circuit. But I mean, yeah, I guess you can, it's pretty easy. It's also pretty easily searchable too, but again, these cards are sort of contradicting and like they don't have like a clear theme until the more recent support. Then you got 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Bisque Doll. You can summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 Gimmick Puppet monster from your hand, and then in the graveyard you can banish it, and then your opponent cannot target Gimmick Puppet monsters you control with card effects. Now that's one of the beautiful things about the Gimmick Puppets. Their more recent support, Terror Baby and Bisque Doll, essentially just make it to where your opponent can't interact with your Gimmick Puppet cards. So that's what it took in order for the deck to be playable. But yet again, it really isn't. 3 copies of Humpty Dumpty. When this card is normal special summoned, you can special summon 1 Gimmick Puppet monster from your hand except itself. Wait. Oh, no, you can special summon itself, but it's hard once per turn, so I don't know why on earth you'd ever want to do that other than making some rank 4s, which we play like 3. Next is 3 copies of Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby. When this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 Gimmick Puppet monster in your graveyard except itself, special summon in defense position, and then you can banish it from your graveyard. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your Gimmick Puppet monster effects. I hate the fact that you have to normal summon that card, i.e. it takes up what this should be, but whatever. But I mean, yeah, we played 6 normal summons. This is an anime deck. I do have my own edits and changes, which I'll mention near the end of the video if you're a masochist enough to actually want to play this hot garbage. That's all the Gimmick Puppet monsters, and we got 2 more monsters. Should be 3 though. 2 copies of Gearspring Spirit. This card cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by having only machine type monster in your graveyard with a minimum of 1. And then once per turn you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Its attack becomes 0 till the end phase. Now like I said, if I could, I would run this at 3 because it is amazing, because your entire deck is machines. But this card also sucks if you want to try to build competitive Gimmick Puppets, because that means a good majority of hand trapped in the game, like Ash, Blossom, Joel, and Lockbird, DD Crow, Phantasma is a dragon, I think. So all of those hand traps turn this card off. So if you want to build a competitive version, you cannot actually play this card because it conflicts with hand traps. Next, onto these spell cards, we are running 2 copies of Junk Puppet. I think I have a 3rd somewhere in my room, but I don't want to go looking for it because frankly that seems terrible. You can target 1 Gimmick Puppet monster in your graveyard and then special summon it. It's literally Monster Reborn for the archetype. How on earth you have 2 in-archetype Monster Reborns and your archetype is still bad? Who knows? I mean, granted, that was just Predaplants for a while. That hurt, I'm not gonna lie. 2 copies of Condolence Puppet, basically Foolish Burial for Gimmick Puppet monsters, and you can send more if your opponent controls more monsters from the extra deck. Like, say, I don't know, take Prime Orcust, or take Orcust. Say your opponent ends on a Masquerena with a Galatea linked, like a Masquerena in the EMZ, and then a Galatea linked to it. You can Foolish for 3 cards. That is crazy, and sadly this deck still sucks. And also, you can banish it from your graveyard and then target a machine Xyz monster you control, and it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects while face up on the field. More importantly, that does not specify Dark or Gimmick Puppets, so you can protect any machine Xyz monster you control. 1 Perform Puppet. This card actually does come up quite a bit because there's times where you just need to match levels and you got a 4 and an 8, you banish an 8, boom, you get yourself a free rank 8. And then also you can recur back your Gimmick Puppet monsters that are banished. So that's pretty nice. I mean, you do end up banishing a lot of Gimmick Puppets in this deck. And then onto the rank up magic package, we are running 2 copies of Zexal Construction. I only ran 2 because I only bought 2, but the actual reason is the only thing that this card is good for in this deck in particular is searching the rank up magic spells. And even then you can only you can actually that's kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so you can search any of the rank up magic spells, which is pretty nice. It doesn't specify normal rank up magic spells. That's kind of broken. Okay, I might have to run 3 now. Anyway, yeah, I bumped that up to 3. 1 copy of rank up magic Argent Chaos Force. I remember first using this card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, playing Gimmick Puppets for the first time. I went back and kind of fixed that build up, but Argent Chaos Force was insane and I didn't even know it. You rank up one of your Xyz monsters and then you can literally get it back and use it twice. So this is 2 for 1 essentially. Basically, yeah, target 1 rank 5 or higher Xyz monster you control, special summon from your extra deck 1 number C or C Xyz monster that is 1 rank higher than the monster you control by using it as Xyz material. And then when a rank 5 or higher Xyz monster you control is special summoned to your side of the field while this card is in the graveyard, you can add it back to your hand. That last effect is a once per duel effect, so you get 2 uses out of that and then you're just done, unless you have some way to recur it from the graveyard. 1 rank up magic Numeron Force. This card is pretty nice too. It essentially just, once the rank up process is done, it just takes your opponent's board and says no. It's awesome. But it also turns off your board, so be careful if you like, say you have a Perform puppet that you still want to get use out of. You use this and that Perform puppet gets turned off for good until it's destroyed. And then 2 copies of Rank Up Magic Quick Chaos. Basically just a way to XC summon on your opponent's turn. I wish there was good number of monsters that could interact with your opponent on their turn, but there isn't. But this is a nice way to dodge impermanence too. Basically is just rank up a number monster. That's essentially all it is. So then that is our rank up magic package and a way to search it. Next, on to some just in general spell cards. We got 3 copies of Machine Duplication. We have a couple targets in this deck. Gear Spring Spirits 1. God, what's that one? Drury Doll is 1. Humpty Dumpty's 1 as well. Terror Baby's 1, 2. And I think... Nope, that's it. And then you can either XC summon them or use them as link material. Machine Duplication is a good card. Sadly, it's used in this Gimmick Puppet deck and not anything better. 3 copies of Trade-In. I mean, you're playing most of, like 90% of your monsters are level 8s. So literally just a free draw 2, and some of them actually gain effects in the graveyard, like Drury Doll. You want it in the graveyard, you don't want to draw it. Next, on to some power 1-ofs for the spells. We're playing 1 Monster Reborn because it's nice, 1 Foolish because we like Foolish, 1 Upstart because why not, and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster as like, because we don't, this deck does not deal well with back row, so we want to get that situation sorted out pretty quick. And then on to the 3 trap cards. We're playing 3 Puppet Parade. If only this card was not a trap card, but sadly it is. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, special summon Gimmick Puppet monsters with different names from your deck up to the difference. Then if your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can set 1 normal rank up magic spell directly from your deck. And for the rest of the field, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for Gimmick Puppet monsters. Which is fine because like we're playing mostly pure, so that doesn't necessarily matter as much as it probably should. But that is all of the main deck. We are going to move on to the extra deck, which is in my opinion what got me into the Gimmick Puppets. So we're going to start with the number Gimmick Puppets. We're going to do 2 copies of number 15 Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder. I have a very sad story about this actually. I ordered 2 secret rare copies from Number Hunters and they got lost in the mail, and I had to order these ugly ass cards. Basically requires 2 level 8 monsters and then up to twice per turn during your main phase 1. You can detach 1 material from this card, target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls, destroy it, then if it was an Xyz monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. This effect is kind of bad, but at least it's removal. It doesn't say like you can only target Xyz monsters, at least it says you can target special summon monsters. It's alright, but yet again, if it was a quick effect, it'd be pretty modern and ahead of its time when it was released. 2 copies of number 40 Gimmick Puppet of Strings. Oh, holy crap, I forgot how long this text was. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, place 1 string counter on each face of monster in the field except this card. So that includes your own cards. Just know that. And then once per turn during the next end phase of the opponent of the player who placed the string counters, by this effect, destroy the monsters with string counters, and if you do, inflict 500 damage for each monster destroyed. I don't know who was in charge of writing the text on that card, but there is a much easier way of doing it. So yeah, you can basically burn your opponent, plus it's also a beat stick. No sad story relating to Gimmick Puppet of Strings. I was cheap and I think I built most of this deck on like $70. So, but I still wanted to bling the deck out, so. 1 copy of number 88 Gimmick Puppet of Leo. This card is horrible, If you want to play a competitive version of Gimmick Puppets, do not play this card. This card is bad. It will. I won't say it won't. It will lose you games, but to get its instant win condition effect, let's just say you're not gonna do it in a duel. Especially like, okay, if you're playing like decks that are around its skill level, like I don't know, ice barriers or I don't know, spirit charmers, like yeah, you could easily get that off. However, this boss monster has no way of protecting itself. It prevents you from using your battle phase, and also you cannot set spells and traps in your spell and trap card zones if you want to activate that effect. However, I do digress. I have actually gotten the effect off before, and yes, I laughed out loud very, very hard. One copy of number C15, Gimmick Puppet Giant Hunter. Basically, you'll never hard summon this card because you don't play any level 9s. You'll just rank it up on top of either number 40 or number 15. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, then target one card your opponent controls, cost, destroy it, and if you do, and it was a monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. So like I said, this chaos number is an infinitely better upgrade, and still pretty modern too, because it can target any card instead of just targeting monsters. However, it's not cool like its downgraded version where you can activate it multiple times. At that point, I'm pretty sure like Gimmick Puppets, it would have been like spammed out in a ton of rank 8 decks. Then one copy of number C40, Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings. Again, you'll want to rank this up on top of either Giant Grinder or Strings. Basically, when this card is special summoned, destroy monsters with string counters, and if you do, draw one card, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the highest original attack among those destroyed monsters in the graveyard. Oh my god, that's horrible. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, place one string counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls. You'll never use that last effect. However, that on-summon effect is pretty bonkers, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's definitely a powerful effect. Then one copy of number C88 Gimmick Puppet Disaster Leo. This is the card that got me into the archetype. Must be special summoned with a rank up magic spell card targeting number 88 Gimmick Puppet of Leo. Cannot be special summoned from other ways. And it cannot be targeted by card effects, and then once per turn you can attach one Xyz material from this card. Inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. During your end phase, if your opponent's life points are 2,000 or lower and this card has no Xyz materials, you win the duel. I like this card a lot. Is it practical? No, not at all. You'll never want to play this or that in a competitive Gimmick Puppet strategy. However, Gimmick Puppets will probably never be competitive, but they might be cool with Orcus if Harp Horror comes back to one. Next ban list. 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet Gigante Stall. Oh, excuse me. You can attach with 2 materials from this card, then target up to 2 monsters your opponent controls. Gain control of them till the end phase. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppet monsters, nor declare an attack except with Xyz monsters. You contribute this card. All monsters you currently control become level 8 until the end of the turn. So again, this is pretty nice, but I'd bump that down to 1. I don't know why I ordered 2. I think I didn't have like a good solid list that I tested out and actually like enjoyed, and I just ordered the cards on a whim. Not a good strategy, by the way. Now, onto the more generic Xyz, we have 1 Gear Gigan X. It adds a level 4 machine. That's all it's there for. Could be used for Zeus though. 1 Dingirsu, the Orcus Evening Star. Outs boss monsters pretty easily, plus it can recur materials too, because all the Gimmick Puppets are machines. 1 Dingirsu, or not Dingirsu, Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. Again, it's just a good card. Like, you detach 2, you send the board. However, not very good this format. I think eventually it'll crop back up to where it's pretty good. And then on to the last two extra deck monsters. We were playing 2 copies of Gimmick Puppet Chimera Doll. During the main phase, if you control this link summon card, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters in the extra deck except Machine Xyz monsters, and then take 1 Gimmick Puppet monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. If all monsters you control are Gimmick Puppet monsters, you can special summon 1 Gimmick Puppet from your hand. So again, this is a pretty nice card. However, the fact that it must be link summoned sucks, because there's a lot of ways to to bring monsters back from the graveyard, and sadly it cannot get its effect. So that'll be all for the Gimmick Puppet Deck Profile. If you want to take anything away from this video, take a couple things. A, have a good solid deck list before you order cards online. B, know what you want to order, or like what decks you want to play. And C, blinging out cards is pretty fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys all in a future video.